First of all, when you think about asking the right question, you might think that it's about research or user research, usually, or this is what I came across in the past. But it's also something you can apply is if you are in a leadership position, like we are, to your team, like asking the right questions to understand what's going on in your team. The same with upper management and stakeholders. So how can I understand what my head of marketing wants? How can I understand what my CEO wants? And then asking the right question is across the board. But in the end of the day, nice phrase. It's about understanding what's really going on. So I have this like nice example of the 5 whys, where you have a problem, for example, that you have water on the floor, right? And then someone comes and right away suggests a solution, and that's something good we have embedded in our brains as humans, that we are very solution focused. So immediately if you see a problem, we try to fix it. We jump into a solution very quick, which sometimes is good, but sometimes can be bad. So if there's water on the floor, someone comes and says, like, oh, okay, let's mop it up. But it's like, wait, but where does the water come from? Why is it there? Oh, I think it's because the pipe is leaking. Oh, okay, so probably we should fix the pipe. Yeah, wait, but why is the pipe leaking? Yeah, because there's too much pressure on the pipe. Ah, okay, so maybe we should lower the pressure. Yeah, but wait a second, why is there so much pressure? Yeah, because the pressure regulator is broken. Ah, okay, maybe we should replace the pressure regulator then. But why was it broken even, right? So yeah, it was broken because we didn't schedule maintenance for many years. So it was just there and no one was looking after it. Okay, that's the problem. So this is what I mean with really trying to understand what is the problem in the first place. And what I also like is to even understand if this is a problem at all. So sometimes I see this from team members that they come like super, not like, what's the difference of excited, confused, or like outraged, like, oh, this is such a big problem, I hate it so much. It's like, well, what's the negative outcome? Like, why is this even a problem? Why are you suffering now? And I was like, yeah, because of this and this. But think about it, like maybe it has a good side that the dislike is. What good side? But oh, yeah, actually, it's not all bad because it's like that. I don't have a good example, but right now, but this happened from time to time, that you also even question if this is a problem. Okay, if there's water on the floor, that's clearly a problem. But maybe you could also turn it into something good. It's like, well, I haven't had a drink today, and maybe I can just reuse the water. I'm joking, but so there's always also a good side of the problem. And by the way, there's also a nice book about it. It's called What's Your Problem? And this is a whole book only about this. Just trying to understand problems and trying to also reframe problems. So the topic we are talking about today is clearly something about, in general, asking the right question. In the end, I would boil it down to what's actually the problem. And if you care about what's the problem, then the context doesn't matter that much. It can be anyone. So now I've talked quite a lot. My question back to you. Why did you pick the topic? Because I suggested 3 or 4 topics we could discuss today. And then you said like, oh, let's take this one. Why?
Yeah. So it was one that actually, for the same reasons that you just mentioned, that when you hear asking the right questions, I immediately think about research and understanding users and so forth. But it's much more broad than that, as you said, with stakeholders, with teams, with your reports as a manager, or with your manager as anyone. Actually, building on what you just said, I would say asking the right questions begins with asking questions. Like it's if I think most people, and I myself at times, are at a baseline where it's not about, okay, what are the right questions, but like to start at all to question where we are. I think especially in the startup world where everything has to be fast, where everyone has to have a bias to action and be very, very bold and so forth. It's easy to get sucked into kind of a mindless actionism type of behavior. And even just the act of taking a breath and being like, okay, what do you actually want to do? Why do you want to do this? What is the problem that we're trying to solve here? Do we know what we need to know in order to solve it? Is just extremely helpful. So yeah, I would say starting point number one is not even asking the right questions, it's asking questions, and then you can improve from there. And the way that you improve is by asking more questions.
I love it.
And the funny thing is, I'm seeing that particularly as a manager quite a bit, that I get into this auto mode of trying to help people solve their problems, or bring the organization forward, and like very much focusing on the action. But I found that every time, when I look back at the times when I was successful at what I did as a manager, it was always the times when I like stopped myself, made sure that I focus on actions, because especially when you're directing others, doing it through questions, doing it through helping people think, mostly is so much more effective than just being like, okay, I have an idea, do this, or that's how it can be done. Because ideally you employ smart people, ideally people who are smarter than you, at least at their particular jobs. So unless it's an emergency and the only thing that matters is time, I think that approach is, or has at least served me a lot better than the alternative in the past.
I would like to build up on that and like switching roles a bit. Actually, not asking questions is quite comfortable, to be honest. So even if you have, for example, teammates or also your customers then asking you questions, the problem is it's exhausting, right? So always answering questions like, why is it like this? Why are we doing like this? What's actually our product vision again? Why are we doing this? What's the benefit of this, what we are doing here? It's exhausting. And it's really, or it can be really, really exhausting. And it also can hurt. And this is what I discovered from being a consultant and also working at a company. When you go out and talk to customers, in between 30 minutes or even like less, your whole idea get busted, like very like this. And you were working on this for already 2 or 3 weeks if you're good. If you're not as good, then you worked on this already for 3 months. And then people come and suddenly like, yeah, but why is it black and not blue? I don't get it. And then the next one says the same, and the next one says the same, and you're like, all this hard work goes to
always
the trash.
Other people.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's I sometimes I discover this side on my own, like my own behavior, that like one of my team members comes and said like, yeah, Thomas, but why are we doing this like this? Why are we doing this like that? And I'm like, I'm already running low on energy. It's Thursday afternoon, a busy week, and now you come and ask like why. But then like, okay, this what it was. This in my head, but it's like, okay, wait, who is this? This is the annoyed part of Thomas who's like super exhausted, but there's also the part of Thomas who actually loves to understand the problem, who wants to get down to the nitty-gritty problem and understand why things are not happening and or not working. And this is actually then good. So they're like, shut up, you. Okay, let's talk about it. Right. But I have discovered many people who are not trained like that. You have to be trained to let this role inside of you speak out. And then you easily switch to a blocking mode or to kind of like a pitch mode, which is also pretty worse. So as soon as you discover that your thing is not working, you try to convince the other person that you are right and that it's working by pitching it again and again and again. But that's actually pretty bad. So just my 2 cents on that.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure if it's quite as one-dimensional, because that pitch mode definitely, I think, has its value, because sometimes it you'd have to convince a lot of people of something, or it is more valuable to make sure that everyone pulls into the same direction than it is to get every last nuance. But coming back to something that you said earlier, I think it's true that not asking questions, maybe being in this pitch mode, is comfortable in the sense that you have a mental model about whatever it is you're talking about, and that you can work on that. You can act on it, you understand it, you can do stuff with it, it feels actionable. It's a good feeling to be in this mode. And as soon as you ask questions, or if someone just comes up to you and says, hey, but what about this aspect? As soon as that happens, that bubble can burst, and it can feel like, oh crap, I'm back at square one now, because something has changed that I haven't thought of before, or I don't know. It's an uncomfortable feeling to kind of have to adjust your model of the world somehow. And I think therein lies the differentiation. So how can we be reasonably confident in that model so that we can act on it, because that's when stuff gets done? And how can we balance that with moments where we question it proactively, or at least let doubts into our mind actively, so that we can make it better, that we can tweak it, but that will always come with some amount of slowdown when we only look at execution speed, for example.
Can you please enable me as a co-host and I can share something? Because as you were talking, I immediately had this nice comic which in my head.
I absolutely can. There we go.
Let's see, and I would like to share it with you. It's this one. What do you see here, Philipp, as a question back to you?
So first of all, I'm not sure if our viewers on YouTube actually see the screen share, but there's also a lag, so
they should.
I'm not sure. We'll see. Otherwise, we'll send it around somehow or put a link in there. Oh no, they see it. Okay. Well, so what I see here is someone making up their mind about something, and then the data marshmallow coming in and giving them more input, if you will.
That's nice how you say it, but I would say it's exactly this, right? That you are there. So the first state is you are kind of like clueless about like what should I do next or whatever. Then you suddenly have some idea, and this upper right frame is the best state you can imagine out of all those 4 states. Because you have some idea, you think everything is fine, you have some, you think you have a plan, and you see, you are just happy. the problem is at some point you have to face reality and do the reality check, which is data. Data can be everything, like talking to a customer, talking to your stakeholders or to your CEO, and then suddenly, or looking at quantitative data, and then this insights, however, say no, or that you're wrong, or something was not working, and then this hurts. So you cannot object. Of course, it will hurt. The challenge is actually that again, you need to be trained. So it's kind of like, if I compare it with a friend of mine, he was a cook, and he was amazing. Like, actually, like every cook or many cooks have this thing that they are just used to touch very hot stuff, because in the kitchen they always deal with hot stuff. And he was just suddenly grabbing a plate fresh out of the oven with his bare hands, very quick and moving. So, are you insane? He was, I have used to get I used to get hurt. So for me, it doesn't hurt that much. And it's, I think, the same for, if you are really trying to understand, if you really want to understand what the problem is, then you need to get used to it. You get used to being hurt. And then after you get used to it being hurt, it doesn't hurt that much at some point anymore. So still it hurts, but a little, and you can say, okay, this hurts only me, but this is my ego. My ego is hurt, but my ego is not important in this thing. Let's move on. Let's improve it. And the challenge is that maybe some of your team members are already trained and work like that, but there are always people in the company who are not trained like that. And I think that's the challenge, to work together as an organization with people who are still not as trained and not as, or let's put it the way around, who are still sensitive to critical feedback. And I think that I believe that's really a challenge. And the only way, and let me put this back to you as a question. Do you see this as a challenge as well? And if yes, or maybe no, what are you going to solve it? Or is there maybe another underlying problem even?
Yeah, I think you can, by the way, remove the screen share. But I think this is a problem that every person individually is struggling with to some degree. And it's just a varying degrees. I don't think anyone is like 100%. Yes, I'm always open to new stuff, because that person would be very unhappy in a different way. So what this reminded me of is going into the philosophy department, Stoic philosophy, which is all very much about detaching or differentiating between the things that you can control and the things that you can't control, and really focusing on the ones that you can. And whenever it comes, especially to things like user testing or data, like it's like shouting at a rock to get angry at data that you see. You can argue about the interpretation of data. That is quite valuable, I think. But if you see something in the world out there, it doesn't make sense to become mad at that thing existing. And I think that is, even without going to, hey, read a bunch of philosophy books, talking about that mindset with people can have really good results, because it's quite empowering. It's not the, oh, you're doing something wrong, but it's like, okay, here's why you've been suffering, or think about why you've been suffering, and like all these moments have that in common. So maybe try to think about it that way a little bit more. I see that we actually do have one or two questions in the chat now. So Evelyn is asking, can you say something about asking the right questions when users say something different than they act? Oh, that's an excellent one. Also, not only related to users, but also to people in the organization, in your family, maybe, or I don't know, anywhere else. So I can go first, seeing that I'm talking already. So I mean, I think in the end, somehow you have to, it's your job, especially in a user interview, to figure out why that discrepancy comes about. And it's hard to give a formula for, okay, ask this question and then you're gonna be done. But to some extent, I think you need to acknowledge that disparity in the interview setting. And I don't mean like, hey, you said this, but you actually did this. Why is that? But it's probably a sequence of questions guiding a user from, okay, this is what you said. So can you tell me more about how that relates to this thing that you actually did, or something that led you up to doing this, or let a little bit of time pass and then go back to, oh, earlier I noticed you did X and Y. Can you tell me more about how you got there, and so forth. So yeah, I think you have to acknowledge the disparity, but do it in a way that doesn't put people into a corner where they feel like they have to be defensive. And then, yeah, usually, unless time runs out, which is always the enemy of asking questions, you're gonna end up with better knowledge. What do you think, Thomas?
Oh, I should unmute myself. Yeah, I always preach it in my workshops. By the way, if you want me to give an in-house workshop, let me know. Shameless self.
Great. Now we have to put the paid promotion thingy on YouTube.
Oh, gosh,
it's not paid. It's not paid. It's just a promotion.
Okay. No, what I want to say is like, actually another great book. Let me see if I can find it quick. Okay, we'll try to find it if you're coming back. The Mom Test. And one of the main tips from this book was actually that you should always ask questions about the past and what actually happened and judge from real actions, and never ever rely on things or on questions in regards to the future. Like, how much would you like to pay for that? Can you imagine to use this? And I heard it so many times, even from people who are doing a lot of research. And this is something I see that it's changing. So you come to companies nowadays, and if you ask like, yeah, have you talked to users? Yeah, of course we have talked to users. Like 10 years ago, it was, have you talked to users? Oh yeah, maybe we should. Still, this is happening from time to time, but it's still nowadays quite unusual. So everyone is kind of, or seems to be talking to people. But now we are facing a different problem now. As everyone is talking to people, still they are not asking the right questions. So, like, oh, okay, let's talk to our users and ask them if they would like to use it. Wow. I think the only thing how you can really prove it is by putting something out and asking for actions and tracking actions. Like, okay, this is the solution. Do you want this? Then sign up here or give me your email and I will keep you up to date how we are proceeding with this. And they say, oh yeah, I'm really excited about this. I would love to, and here's my email. Please keep me up to date. So at least give me something I can grasp, and something which is kind of like a real currency, or at least try to understand, before you actually show the solution, try to understand if this is actually a solution which fixes the problem. And then maybe you have to figure out like, what's the problem? And then even figure out if, like I said, even if the problem is a problem, because I can remember this is still stuck in my head when we did research about smart home devices. And it was and we were interviewing women like mid-40s or older, single, living alone in a home, best case on the countryside when it's dark outside. And then we assumed they have fear that maybe someone could break in also, and they probably need a smart security detection things, right? And then there was one, she said like, well, actually I had this problem. Yeah, I feel insecure at home. I said, yes, okay, she has the problem, check. Yeah, there was once, I had the feeling someone was staring at me at night. And next morning I even went out, it was winter, and I could see footsteps in front of my window. So there was someone watching me. And I felt very insecure. And I said, okay, she said, very insecure? Okay, so now she probably went and picked up a security device to like camera or something. And I said, okay, and what did you do to solve this problem? Because it looks like it's very painful for you. Yeah, I was very insecure, and this was really, I was really a lot in fear. And then I tried to cope with my fear and forget about it. That was the solution. That's it. Nothing. She didn't change anything. And we assumed, okay, now she goes to Google, now she searches for security devices, blah, 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 nothing, right? So for her, it was a problem, but it looks like not as much as a problem as she wants to actually do something about it to solve it. And then she was actually out for us in the interview, because we need people who actively search for a solution. Then they might probably go for some smart home solution or something. But yeah, this brings me back to understanding what happened in the past, and actually judge people by what they do and what they did, and not by what they think they should do. And maybe if I make the reference to Freeletics, like if you ask me, Thomas, would you do 10 burpees tomorrow morning? Then today I would probably say 10. I will even do 20 tomorrow morning. But I don't know, right? What really counts is you watching me tomorrow morning doing those 20 burpees, and you can maybe judge if I really do it. And this is what counts. So real action, if people really come, everything else is worth nothing. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah. So to summarize that a little bit, and also kind of in passing answer the other question that's in the chat, which is about should you even ask your users questions, or should you just look at the data to find the answers in there? So I think what you said and what we're both saying is that I think you should absolutely ask the users questions. They just shouldn't be hypothetical. They shouldn't be about, would you do something in the future, or would you buy something? Would you like something? Generally, things about liking is always a bit difficult.
No one cares about
when
opinions.
when you're trying to learn about behavior, then look at behavior. When you're trying to learn about motives, when you're trying to learn about why people did things in the past, how they felt in the past, how they feel in that moment, maybe while using a certain product and so forth, or what they're thinking, then I think that's where there's a lot of questions to be asked. So again, it's not as black and white, I believe, as like it's only data or it's only asking questions, but it gives you different answers, whether you inquire with your analytics tool or a human person. And with that, it's 9 a.m.
It's 9 a.m., but I would like to close it with asking you the question. Maybe you can ask me the question back. Are there any of your favorite questions, like maybe your top 3 favorite questions you really like to ask? To close it.
So you should have asked me that before, and then I would have a more concise list. But the one that comes to mind immediately is not a question even, but it's tell me more about that. It's just to get people talking, keep people talking. Also, all variations that ask why without actually using the word why, because that's sometimes kind of seen as or kind of come across as confrontational. It's like, oh, how come? Or can you say more how you arrived at that conclusion?
Or the mistake I did.
How do you think about that? Stuff like that.
The mistake I did in the past was actually asking that question, like, what's your problem? And then people are like confused first, like, oh, what problem and what?
I don't have a problem. Who are you?
I don't have a problem. Yeah, that's true. So the first reply you will get is like, no, I don't have a problem. And then if you ask them, like, what have you done in the past? What really sucked? Where were you frustrated? Tell me a story about it.
Oh, and that's suddenly a good one. About. I used it in job interviews quite a bit.
Which one?
Tell me a story about when situation X and Y, like, yeah.
By the way, job interviews. I recently used the question, which is still stuck in my head. You had in job interviews, it was about, tell me the difference between easy and simple. Or is there even one? By the way, that's a great question. I used a lot in the past. Thanks for that.
Nice.
2 things I have in mind to close it up, and maybe it inspires you for the last words. I would leave it to you. Is one, again, book tip, Immunity to Change. If you can wrap it up in like one question, one key question I like from this book is basically, what are you doing instead? So people saying like, well, I need to change something. I'm way too fat, and I don't sleep well, and this all sucks. But I can't change it for some reason. I'm not going there where I want to. But then, but what are you doing instead of changing? And that's really a game changer itself. One of my favorite questions to CEOs, by the way, is also, what keeps you up at night? That's really a nice question, because then you really, you talk about the problem, you talk what sucks, but you don't like, okay, what's your problem? It's more a gentle way to talk about actually what touches you, right? And also one of my favorite questions, which is a little bit tricky, because you have to be careful when you actually state this question, is the magic wand question. Like, if you would have a magic wand and for some reason everything would be magically working, what would it be? What is better than you have today, right? So trying to involve the people into solutions, but don't judge too much on that. But sometimes for creative people, it uncovers something. And then let's close it with also one of my favorite questions. Have I forgot to ask you something?
Yeah.
So give people the space actually to ask you questions back. Yeah. So have I forgot to ask anything, Philipp?
No, you covered it very well. Cool. Awesome. That was fun. Thank you, Thomas. I hope you enjoyed your wine. I enjoyed my vitamin drink. Thank you all for tuning in and watching. This will be on YouTube later. And thanks for the questions in the chat. And hope to see you again next time.
Cheers.